According to American Red Cross, 4.5 million Americans would die each year without life-saving blood transfusions. Blood is necessary for life. Without it, we simply could not live. Blood donations and transfusions have occurred throughout history. They've developed distinct precautions, and they've saved human lives. The history of blood donations are crucial for today's successful transfusions. Strict precautions have been developed to protect the donor and the patient receiving the blood. Blood donations are transferred to many different people who are under life-threatening circumstances in order to save their lives. Blood donations and transfusions have been practiced throughout history. News Medical states that the first known historical transfusion occurred in 1492 when 3 boys donated their blood to the dying Pope Innocent VIII through his mouth, leading to the 4 men's death. Nowadays, we would think this type of blood donating was silly, but we would be as clueless as these men had the history of blood transfusion never occurred. The history of blood donations and transfusions are crucial for today's successful transfusions. The first successful transfusion actually occurred between 2 dogs in 1665. It wasn't until 1818 when the first successful human transfusion occurred. Blood transfusions have been more successful since 1901 when the first 3 blood types, A, B, and O, were discovered. And it wasn't until 6 years later, in 1907, that that they actually used to match the donor's blood type to the patient's blood type. It wasn't until 1939 when we discovered the 4th blood type. Regulations and precautions for donating blood for transfusions began to develop after the mid-1940s. Strict precautions have been developed to protect the donor and the patient receiving the blood. In 1947, screening for ABO blood types and syphilis began on the donated blood. Now we have more knowledge about blood transmitted disease. Every donor is required to answer a series of questions that are vital in determining whether the blood is okay to donate without jeopardizing the patient's health. Precautions are also taken for the donor's health as well. Each donor must be at least 17 years old and meet the weight requirements for their height, and they also check their blood pressure and their iron levels. They typically donate about a pint, and for your perspective of how much blood that is, it's about a pint of ice cream. If you were to fill this up, that's how much blood you'd be donating. From my own experience, the American Red Cross provides juice and water and snacks to help relax you during your donation. They make it as easy as possible. After donating, donors receive a pamphlet of advised precautions to take afterwards, like drinking water, eating a lot of iron-rich foods, and not to lift anything heavy for about 24 hours afterwards. The donated blood is then carefully tested and filtered and shipped to medical facilities to ensure healthy blood to the patient. Blood donations are transfused to many different people who are under life-threatening circumstances in order to save lives. Blood is donated to people who have experienced severe trauma and significant blood loss. If a person loses about 30 to 40% of their blood, it's pretty much fatal. People who receive lengthy surgeries like kidney, liver, heart transplant, and open heart surgery, they also receive blood transfusions. People who are anemic or have leukemia or sickle cell disease also receive blood transfusions. Bone marrow transplants and premature babies, they also need blood transfusions. The history of blood donation and transfusions has allowed us to create precautions to ensure safety in the donors and successfully save the lives of the patients. I've been discussed the important points about blood donations and transfusions. The history of blood donations is crucial for today's successful transfusions. Strict precautions have been developed in the best interest of the donor and the patient. Blood donations are transferred to many different people who are under life-threatening conditions in order to save their lives. Blood is necessary for life. Without it, we simply couldn't live. The blood donation and transfers have occurred throughout history, but it's also developed precautions to where it can save the donor and save lives. Show yourself.
Hello, I am the audience. I don't know if you can see me. There we go.